Varia counted the money once again, and again, and again, but the total remained the same. She still had only 500 rubles in her hands. "I'll pay the electricity bill," she muttered to herself. "I still have some pasta and half a packet of buckwheat at home." But they threatened to cut off the water too. That meant I needed more money, and it was urgent. Varia had no intention of borrowing. Firstly, she had no one to ask. And secondly, she had already owed all her neighbors long ago. Her daughter cried in the other room. Varia quickly rose from the table and hurried to attend to the baby. She changed her diaper, realizing there were only 2 left. Then she fed her daughter and, after a while, put her back to sleep. It was fortunate that Masha was still so little and slept most of the time. Varia placed her 2-month-old daughter in the stroller, since they couldn't afford a crib. Varia reasoned that buying both items would be too extravagant. Perhaps she could save up enough money for a crib later on. The girl hesitated for a moment, but then picked up her phone and called her friend Tatiana. Varia and Tatiana had met at the hospital when Varia was still pregnant. They had sat together in a long queue and struck up a conversation. Tatiana already had 3 children and had come to the hospital to terminate her 4th pregnancy. Varia, on the other hand, had never even considered such an option for herself. Despite Oleg's refusal to support her financially upon learning about the pregnancy, Varia couldn't bring herself to deny life to her little miracle. But nevertheless, she didn't judge Tatiana. They had even become friends, and Tatiana had a hunch that Varia was struggling with financial problems. Varia worked as a clerk in a small grocery store near her home. The store owner not only paid her a meager salary, but also came up with various fines on a regular basis. Tatiana had suggested several times that Varia quit her job, but Varia was afraid that being pregnant would make it nearly impossible to find any other employment. Now, it didn't matter that she was no longer working officially and had been fired. Varia was practically living on her allowance alone. If it weren't for Tatiana, she wouldn't have been able to manage at all. Varia dialed her friend's number. "Hello," she said, her voice filled with a plea. Tatiana didn't waste any time with unnecessary questions. "Do you need a job?" "Very much." "Is there anything available for me? Even just a few shifts?" "Varia, we don't have much work right now. I'll talk to the manager, but..." Varia let out a heavy sigh. Tatiana was her last hope. "Don't get upset," her friend said. "I was actually about to call you. There's no work available at the orphanage, but there's a night guard position at a kindergarten in your area. It's a full-time job. Can you bring your daughter with you?" "Are you serious?" Varia asked. "No joke," Tatiana replied. "Although you'll also have to shovel snow outside during the nights. But it's spring now, so there shouldn't be too much." "It doesn't matter," Varia responded. "Even if there were a lot." "That's not all. The night guard also peels potatoes, but the salary is decent." "I agree to any terms. You know, in my situation, I can't be picky. Especially if I can bring Masha with me." "That's great. I'll call my friend right away and let you know. Maybe you can go for an interview today." Listen, Tanya, is there any chance of getting an advance?" "Is it that bad?" "Yes," Varia confirmed. "Masha got sick last week, and I had to buy medicine." "Okay, I'll talk to the manager. Maybe she can arrange something for you." "Thank you, you're a lifesaver." Half an hour later, Tatiana called back. She informed Varia that she was expected at the daycare center for an interview, and in a day or 2, she could come to the orphanage to paint 3 rooms in the outbuildings. Varia hung up the phone and joyfully twirled around the room. Life didn't seem as daunting to her anymore. Varvara secured the job as a watchman. The next morning, she and Masha drove to the orphanage. Varia entrusted Mashenka to one of the nurses, changed her clothes, grabbed her tools, and set off to paint. During lunchtime, Tatiana paid her a visit, bringing a bowl of soup. Asterisk, how's it going? She asked. Asterisk, it's going well now, Varvara replied. I'll finally earn some money. I can buy something for Masha and pay for the water bill. Asterisk, you could really use new boots. Tatiana shook her head, but Varvara shrugged it off. It's quite warm, she said. I'll try to find myself some boots on sale during the summer. Asterisk, by the way, has your Oleg said anything? Has he even seen his daughter? Asterisk, well, how could he see? Varia mumbled. He made it clear from the start that he wasn't interested in the baby. We've crossed paths a few times on the street while I was walking with Masha. Asterisk, and what did he do? Asterisk, nothing, Varia said. He pretended not to know me. Asterisk, really? Tatiana snapped. That happens sometimes. Asterisk, no need to worry, Tanya. He warned me from the beginning that he wasn't interested in the baby. And now he's just living up to his words. The job of caretaker was far from easy. Masha struggled to sleep well, and between soothing her and managing other responsibilities, Varia had little time to spare. But she didn't complain. At least now she could afford to pay the utility bills and put food on the table. Saving money was nearly impossible, and Varia glanced worriedly at her worn-out winter boots. The soles would give out soon. She prayed for the snow to melt and for warmer days to come. On a Saturday afternoon, Varia decided to stay home. She didn't have to work tonight, so she planned to clean the apartment and treat herself to homemade baked goods. Varia used to enjoy baking cakes, muffins, and cookies, but those indulgences had become rare. Mashenka was sleeping peacefully. Varia put the cake in the oven and started washing the dishes. Then she gathered her daughter's laundry and began using the old-fashioned washing machine. The tantalizing aroma of the pie filled the apartment, and Varia eagerly anticipated taking it out of the oven. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Varia raised her eyebrows in surprise. Who could it be? She wasn't expecting anyone. It certainly wasn't Tanya. She knew well enough that Masha was sleeping at this time and wouldn't disturb her. But then, Varia approached the door and peered through the peephole. She saw an unfamiliar woman who had already raised her hand to ring again. Varia quickly opened the door, not wanting the stranger to wake up her daughter. Asterisk, hello, Varia greeted. Asterisk, hello, the woman smiled warmly. Are you Varvara Koroblina? Asterisk, why yes, Varia nodded. And who are you? Asterisk, would you mind letting me in? The stranger asked instead of answering. Varia hesitated for a moment. However, there was nothing valuable to steal from her. Besides, if it came down to physical strength, they were probably evenly matched. The woman appeared to be around 50 or even older, and though she seemed well put together, Varia had no doubt that she could hold her own in a confrontation. The girl shook her head and smirked, wondering what kind of thoughts had entered her mind. Asterisk, please, come in, Varia said. The woman entered the apartment and glanced around, wearing a peculiar expression in her eyes. Sensing the urgency, Varia suggested they move to the kitchen. She quickly checked on the pie, realizing it would be ready in just a few more minutes. Asterisk, so, will you finally tell me who you are? Varia asked once more. And why are you here? Asterisk, my name is Margarita Pavlovna. The woman introduced herself. I am your father's second wife. Varia's eyes widened in surprise. Her father had left her and her mother when she was only 3 years old. He had provided an apartment for them before moving out, and for a while he lived nearby. Varia's mother, Sofia Igorevna, mentioned that he even attempted to visit and see Varia. However, Sofia Igorevna was a proud woman and refused to accept any handouts from her ex-husband. Likewise, he didn't make much effort to maintain a relationship with his daughter. A year and a half after their divorce, Sofia Igorevna learned from a neighbor that her ex-husband had moved to America. Since then, neither Varia nor her mother had heard anything from him. Sofia Igorevna's life had been difficult. When Varia turned 12, her mother remarried. Unfortunately, her second husband proved to be an alcoholic and a gambler. To repay his debts, the family was forced to sell their apartment and move into the small one-room apartment where Varia currently resided. Fortunately, shortly after the move, Sofia Igorevna divorced her second husband, and it was just the two of them again. However, all these events had taken a toll on Sofia Igorevna's spirit. Varia remembered her mother as a stern, closed-off woman who was constantly unhappy with her daughter and often criticized her for trivial matters. Her mother passed away a few years ago, and Varia often wondered how she would have reacted if she found out that Varia had given birth alone. Shaking off the memories, Varia focused her attention on her unexpected visitor. Okay, Varia said, still feeling a sense of confusion. But my parents divorced a long time ago. I don't know him, and why are you here? Varia, your father and my husband passed away about 6 months ago, the woman revealed. Varia felt no emotional response to the news. I'm sorry for your loss, she offered politely, but I still don't understand how I can help you. Getting up from the table, Varia retrieved the pie from the oven and set it aside to cool. She then offered the woman some tea. Thank you, the woman nodded appreciatively. That would be nice. No coffee? No, Varvara replied. Just tea. You bear a striking resemblance to your father, the woman commented. Gestures, smile. Varia shrugged nonchalantly. Perhaps, she replied. I never had the chance to find out, but I'm still unclear about the purpose of your visit. I came to give you something. It belonged to your father, the woman stated, extending an object toward Varia. Take it. Varia reached out her hand, and a heavy ring landed in her palm. She gazed at it with curiosity. It's quite beautiful, she murmured. Did you travel all this way just to bring me a ring? You don't understand, Varia. This ring is a cherished family heirloom. It has been passed down from parents to children for 4 generations, the woman explained. Your father once told me that according to family legend, this ring brings happiness and love to the family. He blamed himself for not giving it to your mother when they first got married, believing it could have preserved their happiness. Varia looked at the woman in astonishment. Did he genuinely believe that a mere ring could bring happiness to a household? He did, and I share that belief. We never had children, and I know your father would be pleased if you had the ring now. That's why I've come to give it to you. Well, thank you, Varia replied, twirling the ring between her fingers. It appears to be made of gold, and the stone is quite lovely too. What are your thoughts? The woman inquired. How much do you think it could be sold for? Sell? Margarita questioned, her voice filled with disbelief. Vereshka, you don't understand. It holds immense value. It will bring you great happiness. Your father truly wanted his little girl to be happy. Varia's grin remained skeptical. My father wanted me to be happy, she questioned. I haven't seen him in over 20 years. No calls, no letters, no attempt to reach out in any way. He was absent when my mother sold our apartment to pay off debts. He was absent when she pushed me to excel academically and punished me harshly for every minor slip. I doubt he ever even thought about us. You're beautiful, and the fact that you brought me this ring suggests you're not lacking in wealth. Where are you from? America? Margarita nodded. Yes, she admitted. From New York. You see, Varia, life took its own course. Your father was always in high demand as a specialist, with plenty of work to keep him busy. And then, he fell seriously ill. He didn't want to come to you in that state, didn't want you to think he only remembered you when he needed your help. Varia's smile turned melancholic. I never knew my father, and I still don't. This, she glanced at the ring she was still holding, is simply a piece of jewelry to me. If it holds significance for you, then please take it away. Just then, Mashinka woke up and began to cry. I apologize, Varia said, leaving the jewelry on the table and hurrying to her daughter. She lifted the baby out of the stroller and smiled warmly at her. "What's the matter, little one?" she cooed. "You didn't sleep much, did you? But you're awake now, and so beautiful. Give me a smile." Masha beamed a happy smile at her mother, bringing a brief moment of joy to the room. "You have a child." Margarita's voice broke the silence. Obviously, Varvara responded calmly. "Margarita Pavlovna, perhaps it's best if you leave?" Margarita remained rooted in her spot. "I'm not going anywhere," she insisted. "Not until we have a proper conversation." Varia shrugged nonchalantly. "Go ahead then," she said. "I'm listening." "I want you to talk," Margarita began. "I know your father left you and your mother a nice apartment. Why do you live here? Why is there a stroller in the room? Doesn't your baby have a crib? And where are the playpen and toys?" Varia smiled sadly. "Wait for me in the kitchen for a few minutes," she suggested. "I'll change Masha, and then we can talk. If you want to know my story, I'll tell you." After a short while, Varia returned to the kitchen with the baby in her arms. She took her seat and began recounting the details of her life with her mother. "Do you hold resentment towards your father?" Margarita eventually asked. "No," Varia replied sincerely. "I'm not resentful. He's a stranger to me. He simply wasn't there. When I was younger, I felt hurt and waited for him. But then I realized that I shouldn't, and here we are." "All right, let's talk about your adorable daughter." Margarita shifted the topic. "Where is her father? Why do you live in this place? It's completely unsuitable for a child. Can't he find you another apartment?" "Masha doesn't have a father, just as I once didn't have one," Varia answered plainly. "Are you considering selling the ring because of financial difficulties?" Margarita inquired. "Asterisk, isn't it obvious?" Varia replied with a hint of gratitude in her voice. "Varia, let me help you," Margarita suddenly offered. "I have almost no one left. Sure, there are relatives, but they're doing fine without me. And you're a good girl. I want you to keep the ring as a memento of your father. I believe it will bring you happiness." "All right," Varvara agreed. "I won't sell it, I promise." "That's good. Look, Verechka, I was planning to stay in Russia anyway. And now, God willing, I need a place to live. I'll find an apartment, and I want you and your daughter to stay with me for the time being. In the meantime, we can explore our options. I think we should sell this apartment and buy you a bigger one. Mashenka will grow up, she'll need her own room, and a safer neighborhood." Varia stared at the woman, her mouth slightly agape. "Why did you decide to help me?" she asked. "I have money, mostly earned by your father," Margarita explained. "I want some of it to belong to you. Let's sort out the apartment first, and then we'll see what I have left. I'll give you half. That would be fair." Varia had long stopped believing in fairy tales, but what unfolded in her life after that conversation felt nothing short of a fairy tale. Margarita found a rented apartment, and within 3 days, Varia and Masha moved in with her. Margarita played the role of a caring grandmother, spoiling little Masha with a new stroller, a crib, and numerous toys. She also bought clothes for the girl. "Why so much?" Varia protested. "She's growing up quickly. She won't even have time to wear half of them." But Margarita Pavlovna paid no attention to her objections. After finishing outfitting Masha, she turned her attention to Varia. The rented apartment was much more spacious and comfortable than the one Varia had lived in for the past few years. However, the girl couldn't fully relax. Today, Margarita was a kind presence in her and Masha's life, but tomorrow she might not be. Varia was hesitant to leave her job, but Margarita Pavlovna managed to persuade her to leave Masha at home. They still lived near Varia's workplace, so she reluctantly agreed, knowing it would be better for her daughter. Plus, she could always rush home if needed. Varvara hurried home after work, tightly gripping a heavy bag of groceries in her hand. Suddenly, she heard a familiar voice calling out to her from behind. "Varia, hi," the voice said. "I haven't seen you in ages." Varvara turned around and was shocked to see her former boyfriend standing there. You haven't seen me in a long time, she questioned, but I thought you didn't want anything to do with me. Varia, I was wrong. Well, I was scared, he admitted. I want to see the baby. You had a girl, right? Wow, you know about her, Varvara expressed her surprise. Of course I know. She's my daughter. Let me meet her, he requested. Varvara shrugged her shoulders, considering his request. How could she refuse? Come, she said, gesturing for him to follow. And where to? Oleg asked. I've been searching for you for so long. I went to the apartment, but you weren't there. Varia, if you need help, anything, money, just say the word. I'll do anything for her. What did you name our daughter? Her name is Masha, Varvara replied. Write down the address. We usually go for a walk around 4 o'clock. If you want, you can come and join us. We'll take a stroll together. To Varvara's surprise, Oleg showed up the next day, and every day after that. He didn't come empty-handed. He brought a rattle for their daughter. You should invite the boy into the house, Margarita suggested to Varvara one day. Let him change a diaper or two, help you bathe Masha. Maybe you'll lose the desire to go. Varvara agreed, and when she proposed the idea to Oleg, he felt a bit shy at first. However, he didn't refuse to help. He willingly took on every task. After just a week, he was deftly changing diapers and taking care of Masha. Varvara's heart melted as she observed his dedication. Oleg was polite and considerate toward her, but his attention was primarily focused on their daughter. He didn't try to discuss their past relationship or hint at Margarita Pavlovna always warned Varvara to be cautious, but Varvara increasingly argued with her. Oleg is a good father. Why should I be careful with him? Varvara defended. He doesn't try to flirt with me. He treats me with respect, just as the mother of his child. Can't you see? Silly girl, Margarita responded. The best way for him to win you over now is through Masha. Look, he only entered your life a couple of weeks ago, and you're already willing to forgive him for everything. If he asked you to move back in with him now, would you say no? I don't know, Varvara shrugged. Maybe I wouldn't. But Margarita Pavlovna was right. Varvara found herself increasingly reminiscing about the good times she had with Oleg, how much fun they had together. She had believed they would spend their whole lives as a couple. Yes, Oleg had behaved terribly, but perhaps he wasn't ready for a child and had simply been scared. What mattered most now was that he was acting like a real man who had realized his mistakes. Oleg, as if sensing Varvara's vulnerability, became more persistent. He started accompanying her to work and meeting her in the mornings. He even gave her flowers several times. Eventually, he suggested going for a walk together, just the two of them, claiming that young mothers needed a break from their children. Varvara arranged for Margarita Pavlovna to babysit Masha, and she and Oleg went to the movies. A few days later, Margarita questioned Varvara. What have you given up? I haven't given up, Varvara replied, but I'm considering it. Margarita Pavlovna, everyone deserves a second chance. Look at how you've been helping me, even though I mean nothing to you. You're trying to make up for my father's mistakes. Similarly, Oleg wants to make amends for his own. He chose an interesting time, Margarita commented, when you have money. You have the money, Varvara firmly stated. Not me. Tomorrow, when you leave, we won't have any money. Do you think Oleg will leave Masha and me all at once? I think so, Varenka. Why don't you stop being silly? Margarita Pavlovna suggested. Let's go to America together. I have a big house there. I'll take care of Mashenka. You can learn the language, get an education, and find a good job. No, Margarita Pavlovna, I'm not going anywhere, Varvara firmly responded. And you shouldn't speak ill of Oleg. He's a good guy. A week later, Oleg asked Varvara to move in with him and their daughter. Family should live together, he said, planting a kiss on her cheek. And we need more time together. We have a long life ahead of us, and we should start building it now. That evening, Margarita Pavlovna listened to a perfectly happy Varvara as she came to share the news that she and Masha were moving in with Oleg. "What kind of apartment does Oleg have? Is it similar to yours?" Margarita asked. "Almost," Varvara replied. "But now we'll have 2 apartments. We can sell them and buy a better and bigger one." "You seem to be a clever girl in some ways, but here, you've lost your head in love," Margarita remarked. "Let me tell you something, Varvara. Next week, I'll move to another place and find a new apartment for myself. I'll leave this apartment to you for a couple of months. Stay here for the time being, and I'll be around to take care of you. There's just one condition." "What's that?" Varvara inquired. "Don't sell your apartment just yet," Margarita said firmly. Varia agreed to Margarita Pavlovna's request, and a week later, Margarita moved into another apartment, while Oleg moved in with Varia. At first, Varia was overjoyed with the new living arrangement. However, Oleg's dissatisfaction with their rented situation started to dampen her happiness. He believed it was an unnecessary expense, considering they already had 2 decent apartments that they could sell. "Oleg, it's not us who are paying for this housing," Varia reminded him. "I also feel uneasy about living at the expense of your aunt," he confessed. "She's an elderly woman, and it doesn't seem right for her to support us, don't you think?" Initially, Varia didn't pay much attention to Oleg's concerns. She thought it was noble of him not to want to take money from Margarita Pavlovna. However, as time passed and Oleg continued to bring up the topic, while still accepting financial support, Varia began to grow uneasy. Margarita suggested that both Oleg and Varia explore new career paths, enhance their skills, and find better jobs. Varia eagerly embraced the opportunity. Within a couple of days, she and Margarita discussed her options, and the following day, Varia was already searching the internet for a suitable culinary school. She started her studies and quickly fell in love with the art of cooking. Oleg initially claimed that he would think about making changes as well. However, as time went on, he repeatedly stated that he was making enough money and didn't need to pursue new career opportunities like Varia did. Varia grew increasingly dissatisfied with the way their life together was unfolding. She tried to remind Oleg of his promises, but he would simply shrug it off, assuring her that everything was fine between them and suggesting that she was creating her own problems. Margarita Pavlovna maintained a careful distance in her stepdaughter's life, using her skills as a psychologist to gauge when to intervene and when to remain silent. Occasionally, she would mention the idea of a trip to America, but she never pushed the matter. One morning, as Varia returned from work, she realized that Oleg hadn't been meeting her in the mornings for the past 3 weeks. However, she didn't complain because he had been taking care of their baby at home. Varia decided to stop by the store to buy potatoes, planning to cook a delicious dinner and invite Margarita over. The woman had been busy lately, and Varia missed spending time with her. Opening the apartment door quietly so as not to wake Masha, Varia noticed that Oleg, who should have been up for work, was nowhere to be found. Panic started to set in as she couldn't find him anywhere in the apartment. Varia took off her boots and coat and checked the bedroom where their daughter was sleeping peacefully. Concerned, she dialed Oleg's number. When he answered, Varia immediately realized that he had been drinking. "Where are you?" she asked with worry. "I went out for a drink with some friends," Oleg replied. "It's my friend's birthday today." "Are you out of your mind?" Varia exclaimed. "You left our daughter alone at home. And what will happen to her?" Oleg nonchalantly replied, "She'll wake up and cry. Don't bother me, I'm celebrating with friends." Distraught, Varia called Margarita Pavlovna, tearfully explaining what had happened. "How could I leave you?" Margarita sorrowfully asked. "You're leaving?" Varia asked in horror. "Are you going away?" "Yes, my dear Varia, I was just about to tell you. I have urgent matters back home. Listen, maybe you and Masha can come with me to America? You can receive a good education there. I have connections, and I'll help you find a good job." "But," Oleg won't allow Masha to leave, Varia replied uncertainly. And have you already registered Oleg as Masha's father on her birth certificate? Margarita inquired. No, not yet, Varia admitted. Well, then he has no legal rights over her. Dress Masha and come to me with all the necessary documents. I'll contact the consulate. Varia, please don't hesitate. If you change your mind, you can always return. 3 weeks later, Varia and Masha were ready to board the plane to America. Oleg was furious. Firstly, Margarita Pavlovna had stopped paying the rent, forcing him to return to his own place. Secondly, Varia refused to speak to him, leaving him bewildered and demanding explanations for his actions. As Varia nervously boarded the plane, she confided in Margarita Pavlovna, I've never even flown before. Everything will be all right, Verechka, Margarita reassured her. They arrived in New York late at night, greeted by an acquaintance of Margarita's. Sitting in the car, Varia peered out the window, marveling at the enormity of the city and the sparkling lights that adorned everything. Her spirits lifted as she caught sight of private houses outside the windows. I live outside the city, Margarita informed her. It's quieter here, though I'm certain you'll adjust to New York in due time. Margarita Pavlovna made sure Varia didn't have a dull moment. The very next day, she enrolled her in an English course and introduced her to a neighbor who had a small child slightly older than Masha. And come Monday, Varia was scheduled to start school. How Margarita Pavlovna managed to find a Russian cooking school in America remained a mystery to Varia. During the weekend, Margarita Pavlovna invited her relatives over for dinner to introduce Varia. Nervously, Varia wondered if they would be interested in meeting her. After all, she was only related to Margarita through her husband and had no direct ties to the family. But Margarita reassured her that there was nothing to worry about. The following day, Margarita Pavlovna's sister arrived with her husband and 2 sons to visit them. The moment Varia set her eyes on Alex, the eldest son, all her worries faded away. Did you plan this? Varia whispered to Margarita in the kitchen when they were alone. Yep, Margarita calmly nodded. When I saw you, I thought he would be a perfect match for you. You always said the ring connected you to Oleg, but I think that's nonsense. The ring deserves better taste than that. By the way, Alex is a pediatrician. Now, stop being stuck in the kitchen and go talk to the guy. You're absolutely right, another woman's voice chimed in. Varia turned around to see Rosa Pavlovna, smiling warmly at her. I'll assist Margarita. You go entertain the guests. Alex is getting bored there. But you, Varia stammered. Rosa Pavlovna grinned. I trust my sister's judgment. She believes you're a perfect match for him, and your little girl is simply adorable. Varia smiled and entered the room, where she found Alex cradling little Masha in his arms, with his brother and father by his side. Is she awake? Varia asked in surprise. Why didn't you call me? The men smiled. We can handle one little girl, Alex reassured her. Thank you, Varia replied with a smile. I think she needs a diaper change. May I assist you? Alex offered. Varia looked at the man with surprise and nodded. It might sound strange, I understand, he said when they were alone. I just wanted to take you for a walk. There's a park nearby. The 3 of us could go there. Varia lowered her head and looked at the man intently. Did they tell you to take care of me? She asked. Yes, he nodded without embarrassment. But you should know that I rarely do anything I don't want to do. Okay, Varia nodded. Let's take a walk. A week later, Varia sat at home surrounded by books. Margarita Pavlovna had taken Masha for a walk, leaving Varia to focus on her English homework. She felt frustrated, believing she would never grasp the complexities of the language. The doorbell rang, and Varia opened it, revealing Alex. Over the course of a week, they had become close friends. And why the unhappy face? He asked. I don't understand this stupid language, Varia sighed. It's impossible to learn. Come, he pulled her gently by the arm. You know, there's a saying that the best way to learn a language is with a loved one. Varia shook her head and laughed. I'm sure it doesn't work like that. For now, I'll keep it civilized, Alex replied, guiding her to the couch. So what can't you figure out? She pointed at the open page. This, she said, poking at the text. Oh, it's so easy, he remarked, planting a kiss on her lips. We can use this time to talk about. He kissed her again. So what are we talking about? About the future, Varia replied, not entirely sure of her answer. Exactly, Alex responded, surprising her. See, you've already remembered, he said, kissing her once more. Now let's talk about how this tense is formed. Mum, Varia stretched contentedly. And then we can move on to another new topic, she suggested. I agree, Alex replied.